Okay, I know the regional office has worked very hard on our schedule, so we will try to stick to our minutes allocated. I am Stuart Rabinowitz. I am the president of Hofstra University, and more importantly for this purpose, I am a co-vice chair of the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council. It's been my privilege to serve as such for, this is our 7th consecutive round, serving with my friend. He has now become my friend because I see him all the time, Kevin Law, who's the other co-vice chair. I'm also, as I said, president of the university, and I'm honored to welcome the SIAT team and everybody else to the Zucker School of Medicine. And following the presentation, we will have the dean of our medical school, Dr. Lawrence Smith, give everyone a tour of this cutting-edge facility for this cutting-edge medical school, no pun intended there. You will clearly enjoy the cadaver lab most, that's my goal. But before we begin, I want to introduce everybody on the panel. To my immediate right, of course, is Kevin Law, who's co-vice chair of this Long Island organization and has been, and he's also president of the LIA. Sitting next to him is Pat Edwards, who's a regional council member, has been since the beginning, and the co-chair of our Opportunity Agenda work group, and she is vice president of City Community Development. I'm short, so I have to lean back. Okay. So sitting next to Pat is Dune Gibbs, who is also a regional council member, and Dune is the director of the prestigious Brookhaven National Laboratory. Sitting next to Dune on his right is the Honorable Joseph Saladino, newly elected supervisor of the town of Oyster Bay, and the winner of the 2017 DRI from Long Island for downtown Hicksville. And to my left, my immediate left, the incomparable Long Island Regional Director of ESD, Kara Longworth. So I'd like to thank the team from the bottom of my heart, actually, my 7th year, and the governor, of course, who started this whole thing, for creating yet another opportunity for us to bring together Long Island stakeholders to work collaboratively for a better Long Island. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Regional Council has made Long Island work collaboratively, probably for the first time in my lifetime. And the title of our report this year involves what we think is our greatest accomplishment. It's not our accomplishment, it really is the governor's accomplishment on Long Island, and that is the approval of the Long Island Railroad's third track as proposed by the governor. And my co-chair, Kevin Law, is going to tell you more about why this is so crucial to us.
So we're going to introduce also, you're not going right into your presentation, are you?
Oh, no, I was going to say, and now the SIAT team. It just jumped. Yes, please, welcome. And
you.
Could you introduce
Thank
the
you.
members?
Good morning, and it's great to be back on Long Island, and I welcome the representatives of the Long Island Regional Economic Development Council, and it's good to see you. Our panel is looking forward to hearing your presentation after we introduce everyone, and to asking questions. And I'd like to first introduce myself, Broanne DeStito. I'm Commissioner of the Office of General Services, and I am not the Secretary of State, Rosanna Rosada. She could not be here today. She wanted to be here, but she had another board meeting that she had to attend. So we are here in her stead, and I'm going to lead this presentation. But to my right is Roberta Reardon, Commissioner of the Department of Labor, and next to her is Ruth Ann Visnauskas, Commissioner of the Homes and Community Renewal, and next to her is Brian Stratton, who is the Director of Canals with the New York State Canal Corporation, and next to Brian is my good friend, Assemblywoman Helene Weinstein from Brooklyn, but also Chair of the Ways and Means Committee in the Assembly. So I would also like to acknowledge that we have two other members of the Assembly, Member of Assembly Solages and Ed Rock. And I want to welcome them, and I'm glad they came. So I'd like to remind you that we have 30 minutes for your presentation, which will then be followed by a question and answer period from us, and then we will, have a discussion, and then I understand we're going on a tour, correct, President?
Yes.
Yes. So we will invite you now to make your presentation. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
So does my time start now?
Yes.
Anyway, as I was saying,
Thank you for the time in between.
the thing we're most excited about that happened this year is the approval of the third track. And Kevin Law will tell you more about why we think this makes such a huge difference to Long Island. Kevin?
Sure, thank you, Stu. We're making a big deal about the third track because, in essence, it is a big deal. It is more than laying down 10 miles of new track between Floral Park and Hicksville. This project's positive impacts will be felt for years to come. The third track has been in the making for several decades. In the face of initial opposition in some communities, this project has been carefully nurtured through hundreds of informational meetings Governor Cuomo and his team led. And the governor said it best, Long Island's future relies on nurturing job-creating synergies between the world's largest commuter rail system and dozens of suburban village centers. It's essential, he said, if the region wants to attract well-trained young workers who will grow our collaborative bioscience cluster, as well as our legacy industries of aerospace and agriculture. So what can 9.8 miles of new track do for a region that has over 700 miles of track already? A lot. The third track will create thousands of permanent and construction jobs. It will let us realize the full benefits of the East Side Access Tunnel. It will facilitate reverse commuting between Long Island and New York City, and it will help revitalize our downtowns. In other words, it is a project that really does put Long Island in motion, heading down the right track.
So Long Island has undergone some major transformations over the past 6 years, and we really want to continue to build on our progress as a maturing suburb with maturing college presidents. Developing a sustainable regional economy and expanding opportunities for all citizens. And I want to say that that was one of our strategies from day one, to expand the opportunities for every single Long Islander. So some of the regional economic data that has come forward recently has been quite positive. There are other people who played a very significant role in that, so we're not taking all the credit, that's for sure. But we are happy that our gross national product, our regional product, and our global exports and our tourism numbers are all significantly up over the last 6 years. Our unemployment is way down over the 6 years, 3 percentage points since this regional council began in 2011. But we understand that we have significant challenges ahead that we have to address. We have pockets of poverty throughout our region, and unfortunately, the poverty rate has increased actually over the past 2 years. And Long Island still is a very expensive place to live and work, and we understand that. Our manufacturing base needs to be addressed because it's still decreasing. So while we are proud of whatever contribution the Regional Council has made through the governor to this region and its developments, we understand that there's much work to do. So during this presentation, we will highlight several past successful projects and give you our recommendation for priority projects that we ask to be funded this year. But first, I want to recap our efforts and what those efforts have done over the past 6 years. And the one thing that we've always said, I phrased it differently from year to year. Sometimes I say you get more bang for the buck if you let Long Island win. But we make promises about jobs and investment, about leverages, and we keep them. And we're proud to be transparent about the numbers and to have you assess how we've done the past 6 years. So we actually, thanks to this process, have brought back to Long Island almost $500 million, $486 million for 590 projects. Importantly, very importantly, those projects have leveraged $3 billion against $22 million from the state of New York. And that's an astounding leverage ratio of 135 to 1, 13.5 to 1. And those projects, those 590 projects, have created or retained over 17,000 jobs on Long Island. For the last 6 years, we have focused on supporting projects that provide a good return on New York State taxpayer investments, and we are proud to report that about 81% of the priority capital projects have been either completed or on their way to generating the promised economic activities. Real jobs for real people. And so we stand on our record.
This year, we are recommending 31 capital priority projects that will facilitate over $190 million in private investment, then to be leveraged against our recommended $20 million in state funding. We are proud to say that while New York State goal is 5-to-1 leverage, our round 7 recommended priority projects will provide a 10-to-1 leverage. As stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, it's our duty to spend the money wisely and to get our state and our residents the largest return on their investment. We look forward to outlining our recommended projects for round 7, but first we will hear about our 2017 Downtown Revitalization Initiative winner, the diverse community of Hicksville.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Governor Cuomo and all of those involved for this incredible opportunity. I'm Joseph Saladino, Supervisor of the Town of Westwood Bay. I want to thank you on behalf of our residents and stakeholders the chance to bring downtown Hicksville's revitalization efforts to a reality. It's something very special to us. Downtown Hicksville is home to approximately 42,000 residents, and the entirety of the downtown is within a half-mile radius of the Long Island Railroad Hicksville Station. We've been able to bring together all of the different racial, ethnic, and economic groups to develop a vision where we want Hicksville to be in the coming years. It's a joint vision, not only of that of the elected officials, but it's a consensus of the community at large. When Governor Cuomo came to make the grant presentation, I told him that we would spend the state's money very wisely. To do that, we plan to follow the best practices and principles of smart growth and transit-oriented development. We will continue to rely on our commuter railroad as a focal point, and with these new state funds and the Metropolitan Transportation Authority's $132 million investment in the Hicksville Railroad Station, we can transform the Hicksville community into a vibrant downtown for millennials, downsizers, empty nesters, and senior citizens alike. The downtown Hicksville area is currently lacking an open community space, so we propose the creation of a High Line, an elevated park plaza over existing Long Island Railroad surface parking that could host events such as fairs, farmers markets, food truck nights, and concerts, in addition to gardens, shelters, areas for rest and relaxation, and a stage. The establishment of a downtown path, a loop that will span 1.5 miles in length with potential connections to the Hicksville Long Island Railroad Station, the public library, and other community attractions. Along this path, we hope to establish mini parklets. These small areas would feature benches, landscaping, informational kiosks, and artwork displays. Lastly, Hicksville will implement downtown retail storefront facade improvements and implement strategic traffic improvements to increase pedestrian safety, walkability, and mitigate traffic issues in order to support new mixed-use development in the downtown. The end results of successful downtown revitalization efforts will be new jobs and new housing opportunities, and the implementation of aesthetic improvements like an attractive, walkable, bicycle-friendly environment. We very much look forward to making this revitalization for downtown Hicksville a reality. So again, on behalf of the residents and stakeholders in the town of Oyster Bay, I want to thank Governor Cuomo and thank the Long Island Regional Council and the state for having the confidence in us and in our vision, and you can be assured we will not let you down.
This year, the regional councils were asked to address statewide priorities that drive economic growth by making investments that support 4 interconnected economic development pillars: innovation, placemaking, workforce development, and tradable sectors. When we look back, we realize that over the last 6 years, most if not all of the projects that we have supported address one or more of these pillars. In round 7, we are continuing to build on them to drive innovation and construct career ladders in advanced manufacturing and expand opportunities in our broad-based biotech cluster. In addition, we will work across all sectors to provide workers varied levels of formal education and training, focusing on veterans, special needs populations, displaced workers, and communities of need such as Wyandanch and our DRI areas.
Innovation is in Long Island's blood, from creating everything from the World War II warplanes to the lunar module to put a man on the moon. Long Island's innovation ecosystem is strong. Fortunately, we have world-class institutions that provide a pipeline of discovery. These institutions are particularly strong in the life sciences, which is one of the reasons we identified life sciences and biotech as our regional cluster 2 years ago. Long Island has the unique assets to support a cluster strategy to grow biotech jobs on Long Island, from our famed medical research institutions such as the Feinstein Institute in Manhasset and Cold Spring Harbor Labs, to our nationally ranked colleges, including Stony Brook University, the largest public school, and Hofstra University, the largest private university, and our globally recognized research facilities like the Broad Hollow Bioscience Park at Farmingdale State College, and of course, Brookhaven National Lab, which I'm very proud to represent. The slide before you lists several of the life sciences projects supported by the council. Do I have that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the interest of time, I'll highlight just 2 of them for you now. Accelerate Long Island received funding to invest in technology firms on Long Island as a part of the effort to support new tech firm startups and to facilitate collaboration among Long Island's research institutions. Since 2011, Accelerate has assisted 10 technology research companies and plans to invest in an additional 20 to 25 companies over the next 3 years. Amneal Pharmaceuticals is one of the largest pharmaceutical manufacturers and has invested over $100 million and created nearly 300 new jobs since 2011. In addition to these 2 capital projects, the Council has supported several other life sciences companies through training programs available via the New York State Department of Labor. In 2011, the Council awarded grant funds to establish an advanced drug testing facility as part of Cold Spring Harbor's Cancer Therapeutics Initiative. In July, at Cold Spring Harbor Lab, scientists made a discovery in identifying the biological mechanism that drives the spread of pancreatic cancer and helps to explain why one of the most common forms of the disease is so deadly. By understanding the biochemical changes that trigger metastasis, eventually, researchers will be able to screen potential drugs to suppress these changes. Great discoveries are happening here. Assisting researchers at Stony Brook University supports our biotech cluster and leverages the medical discoveries at this premier center for research. The Council and New York State made a smart investment in 2016 by awarding Stony Brook University grant funds for their preclinical medical research imaging center. The ability to use medical research imaging in preclinical research advances medical science and expedites life-saving pharmaceutical development. This facility, part of Long Island's growing innovation ecosystem, is operational and is available to biotech companies that can work with Stony Brook on research. A tri-regional effort is underway which brings together Long Island, New York City, and the Mid-Hudson to create a powerful research corridor harnessing regional leadership, regional institutions, and life science companies. The vision is 3 is stronger than 1 when it comes to attracting venture capital, federal research dollars, and technology commercialization.
We have always believed that where we invest New York State dollars matters, and it matters a great deal. This slide represents many projects the council has funded that create places where people want to live, work, and play. Since 2011, the Regional Council has awarded the community of Wyandanch over $16 million in New York State funding that has spurred $109 million in additional funding for 18 projects. While much of the funding has been for infrastructure improvements, the Council has also supported funding for projects that focus on workforce development. As a result, over 1,400 individuals have received training in the areas of green construction, manufacturing, financial literacy and education, and college readiness. The development of Wyandanch Rising continues to transform the community each and every day. The mixed-use buildings are almost fully leased, and there is a waiting list for the apartments, and an outdoor active plaza, which has been a magnet for community engagement. Last fall, the Albanese Corporation and Community Development Corporation of Long Island started design on the next phase of Wyandanch Rising. Wyandanch is now a lively, hopeful place that people are proud to call home. In 2015, to further our placemaking and downtown revitalization efforts, the Community Development Corporation of Long Island received a grant award to construct Peconic Crossings in Riverhead. That's on the east end of Long Island. This formerly underutilized site will host a 4-story mixed-use building with an art space, a community space, and affordable residential units. This project broke ground earlier this year and will complement the town of Riverhead's comprehensive plan to increase the variety of housing options and opportunities for low and moderate income households and to grow as the arts center of Long Island's East End. This project, along with many others, is leading the way to revitalization in Riverhead. Over the past 6 years, we've shifted our focus from creating jobs for the unemployed to training the workforce to fill the existing jobs. This is just a few samplings of over 200 projects we have given support for workforce development projects that provide workers with the requisite skills for these unfilled jobs.
For example, in round one, the council identified the shortage of qualified engineers as a serious challenge to the region. There were jobs available, but people weren't trained to fill them. So from day one, we started to develop grant programs to address the gap, and 4 colleges have participated. As a result of this $2.5 million total investment of state funding, Hofstra, Stony Brook University, Farmingdale State, and New York Institute of Technology have nearly doubled their engineering enrollment from 3,000 in 2011 to over 5,000 students in 2016, as you can see from the chart.
2 of our very successful workforce projects completed this year took place on the campuses of Adelphi University and St. Joseph's College. Adelphi created a state-of-the-art nursing innovation lab and training center to enrich their nursing program. This facility, this new facility, I might add, provides real-world training in real-world settings to ensure smooth transition for students from the classroom to the bedside. We are very excited to show you this innovative project when we visit Adelphi later on today. We also supported St. Joseph's Center for Hospitality and Tourism Management in response to the region's demand for trained hospitality professionals for two of our major industries, tourism and healthcare. This project was completed later this year.
The council identified the importance of supporting tradable sectors and our manufacturing companies as crucial to the economic health of the region. This is just a sampling of some of the companies that we've helped. And in addition to receiving incentives to help expand, many of them also participated in our export promotion programs to increase their global footprint. A great example of the tradable sectors pillar is East West Industries, a woman-owned business, a woman-owned aerospace manufacturer. East West received funding in 2015 for the acquisition of machinery and equipment and renovations to their new facility to increase production efficiency. They design and manufacture support products that save aircrew lives in the military. During a ribbon-cutting ceremony in June, we were impressed to learn they exceeded their initial job commitments by creating 25 new full-time jobs instead of the promised 5. This year, we put additional focus on public outreach and attended over 30 meetings, workshops, and other public sessions involving over 5,000 participants. We are grateful for the help of our over 400 workgroup members for their dedication in our 7th year as they continue to develop and guide our strategies and help us shape projects. We picked projects all across the region, 31 capital priority projects in all. Our strong public outreach and demand for high leverage resulted in a powerful portfolio of projects for round 7.
As with our other sectors, the council has supported innovative projects that move our region forward in research and technology. This list outlines round 7 projects that support the innovation pillar. Big discovery means utilizing big data. The Feinstein Institute for Medical Research in Manhasset will invest $8 million to expand their high-speed data processing and will establish a computational genomics center. The acceleration of data analysis will expedite Feinstein's world-renowned research in bioelectronics and implantable devices toward new discoveries. As a region, we also understand that focusing solely on the biotech cluster presents challenges, so we're expanding efforts to bolster research also in other areas. One new area is discovering new applications in the silicon wafer and power electronics industry. Stony Brook University will collaborate with SICC Materials Limited, a leading Chinese silicon carbide manufacturer, to establish the Center for Wide Bandgap Crystal Growth.
Investing state dollars in communities that will reap the most benefit is and has always been a priority when we recommend projects. This slide lists round 7 projects that will support the placemaking pillar. From the start, the Regional Council identified and prioritized the need to mitigate inequalities and provide access to training and job opportunities for all people in all communities in the region. To support the placemaking pillar, we believe that the transit-oriented development, TOD, of Wyandanch Village is perfect to house the Wyandanch YMCA and Wyandanch Digital Park. The YMCA of Long Island is partnering with the Albanese organization to build the Wyandanch Y to complete the phase 1 of the plaza. This facility will offer education and recreational programs in addition to social mentoring to help prevent gang violence, drug abuse, and other high-risk factors. Suffolk County, in partnership with the Long Island Software Technology Network, also known as ListNet, and the Urban League of Long Island, one of the region's oldest and historical African-American-led organizations on Long Island, will create the Wyandanch Digital Park, a technology-focused business incubator, educational and event space in a retail storefront in the Wyandanch Village development. This will be a great asset and opportunity to begin innovation and entrepreneurship jobs in this revitalized place. We've made so much progress in Wyandanch, turning it around from a distressed and disadvantaged community that was dispirited into a vibrant one of hope. We're excited to see such projects spread in other communities. The Community Development Corporation of Long Island will construct a mixed-use commercial and residential development in the village of Hempstead, a Nassau County distressed community with many of the risk factors that exist in Wyandanch. Hempstead is clearly a distressed community with a population of 20% of its population living below the poverty line. We believe that Carmen Place project in Hempstead will be a catalyst for transformative change. Paul Fink, Vice President in Marketing and Development of the Community Development Corporation of Long Island, will tell you more about this project on the tour.
Sag Harbor is a great place, but one we want to make better. It is a tourism mecca on the east end of our island, but two of its iconic landmarks are in need of investment. Sag Harbor's Long Wharf, a village landmark erected in the 1770s for the mariners and tourists, still serves as an anchor of the downtown business corridor. The village will complete a full rehabilitation of its Long Wharf, creating a boardwalk-style promenade. The Sag Harbor Cinema is iconic and historically significant, having been built over 100 years ago and serving as the village's center for art and tourism for decades. It was the only movie cinema playing documentary and independent and foreign films on Long Island's East End. Unfortunately, in 2016, the cinema, which is located at the heart of Sag Harbor, was damaged in a fire and requires a complete rebuild, which the Sag Harbor Partnership, a not-for-profit, will accomplish.
So one of the other pillars, of course, is workforce development, and in round 7, we are asking for funding for projects which improve and further workforce development. You can have all the buildings you want and all the companies and with all the machinery that they can have, but they don't work without skilled workers, bringing them to life. So in support of workforce development, we have selected the projects above or on that slide to further our workforce development strategies. For example, we are recommending a grant to the Center for Science and Learning to establish community STEM centers in 9 distressed communities such as Hempstead, Wyandanch, and Central Islip. These centers will have the latest equipment like 3D printers, robotics equipment, and trained staff to teach, mentor, and show how STEM could be the pathway for so many young people to higher education and to fulfilling careers thereafter. In keeping with our STEM theme, we are also supporting the Emerging Technologies in Undergraduate Education project, which is a mouthful, at Farmingdale State College. Farmingdale State plans to introduce the new and burgeoning field of virtual and augmented reality to students. This technology will give students the opportunity to practice in situations that closely simulate the real world. We also want to mention 2 other important workforce projects that we are seeking funding for. One, the Nassau Community College Urgent Program, which stands for Utility Readiness for Gaining Employment, is seeking funding to offer their training programs to unemployed women, veterans, and young people between the ages of 18 to 24. The first veterans group training would be implemented in the fall of 2018. And finally, the STREAM Center, which is STEM plus Art and Research, STREAM, through We Connect the Dots project, is seeking support to train unemployed workers, minorities, low-income families, women and veterans, etc., through an array of STREAM programs to build a strong and positive 21st century workforce. Once again, now we're on the tradable sectors pillar. Once again, this year, companies have come to us asking for help in expanding their companies and purchasing equipment or training their employees. This slide lists round 7 projects that support the tradable pillars sectors. These 8 Long Island companies support our 2017 plan and make a wide variety of products which will invest nearly $19 million in new facilities and equipment and will remain and grow on Long Island.
In support of our tradable sector pillar, the council is supporting a grant for the Harbor Lights Oyster Company to revitalize a blighted 4.3 acres of waterfront in the heart of Greenport, where they will expand their existing hatchery operations with oysters as the cornerstone. While tasty and profitable, oysters also benefit the bay and other organisms by naturally filtering the water. Manna Fish Farms is another pipeline project that promotes a tradable sector and aligns with our heritage fishing industry on Long Island. By utilizing the latest submersible cage technology, Manna will farm finfish, shellfish, and macroalgae while researching and developing integrated multi-trophic aquaculture in the Atlantic Ocean. As we mentioned earlier, in the last 6 years, Long Island has received $486 million for 590 projects. These projects have created or retained more than 17,000 jobs and leveraged $3 billion in non-state investment, mostly from the private sector. Yes, we can invest New York State funds to build new buildings, but the real measure of true economic development is the impact on the people who benefit from these investments. Like Sharon Cooper, formerly an unemployed single mother who received training at the Wyandanch Resource Center. Like Jean Fitzpatrick, who lost her job to outsourcing, but found inspiration in the urgent program at Nassau Community College. By gaining necessary workforce skills through these programs, both are now employed. We've helped people like Pablo Carrera, a resident of the distressed village of Hempstead, who found inspiration through the Hofstra Northwell Medical Scholars Pipeline Program. He is now at Dartmouth College, where he sees a future in the medical field he previously didn't dream was possible. And finally, Emma Larson, a beautiful 4-year-old girl with a rare muscular condition who I met at a recent event at Cold Spring Harbor Labs with the governor, who has participated in their recent therapeutics clinical drug trials, and who has made tremendous progress. She will steal your heart, and even the governor realized that it was a great investment here on Long Island to help that little beautiful girl. This is what the Long Island REDC is both humbled and proud to be a part of. Funding projects that offer training opportunities for our neighbors that have fallen on hard times, and supporting programs that spur excitement in our next generation workforce to explore boundless career opportunities that await them. Most importantly, our mission is to ensure all Long Islanders from Valley Stream to Montauk feel engaged and benefit from our revitalization efforts in this region we all call home.
So we're proud of what we have done over this past 6 years. We have stayed together. The Regional Council on Long Island basically has the same core membership. We're all on the same page, but we need to keep working, and we need the help of New York State once again in round 7 in order to accomplish what we have done. Thank you.
Thank you.
How many minutes did we take?
31.
31. That's pretty damn good.
Thanks for the bonus.
Thank you very much, all of you. It was a great presentation, and I think we should give them another round of applause. So we'll start with our questions, and I'll ask Commissioner Reardon to begin our question.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation. It was really very well presented and really well, excuse me, thought out. I want to congratulate you on the work that you've done on workforce and mapping the needs of all of your businesses with the workers that you have in the area. It's very impressive. Urgent, STREAM, the STEM Center, all the things that you have put together for 2017 are really exciting opportunities. As you know, I'm all about workforce development, so this is really important to me. You've talked a lot in the report about the survey that you did with the Workforce and Education Work Group in collaboration with WDI, developed questionnaires to identify skills gaps. And the results showed that there are enough skilled students in Long Island to fill the jobs that you currently have. But the question is, how do you connect them to those employers? I know that part of your issue is you have significant out-migration, so students go to school in Long Island and then take those skills somewhere else, and that is a huge problem. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you're talking to students so that they gain awareness of the employment opportunities right here on Long Island? What are you doing to keep those trained students here so you can grow the economy?
Can I speak to college students for a moment? We have, discovered that if you want to flourish as a private university in this competitive atmosphere, you need to demonstrate a return on the investment of tuition dollars. And so career counseling, planning, events, career fairs have become part and parcel of the very recruitment effort of Hofstra University. And so in addition to that, we have come to appreciate the fact that real life experience with employers while students are going to school is a win-win. It's a win because the student gets a leg up on a permanent job on Long Island, and for the employer because they get to know somebody much better than they would just on an interview. So for example, every engineering student that attends Hofstra School of Engineering and Applied Science has the right to have a co-op experience, a 6-month co-op experience with Long Island engineering firms for that. The same thing is going to happen in all of our graduate business programs. There will be a co-op component to all of those. And so, and it makes the students happy because they get a chance to see what the real world is like. And it gets the employers happy, and those people stay and keep those jobs. The other thing I would say is that we need to do better on affordable housing. And so a lot of the students leave, a lot of the graduates leave because there's not enough affordable rental housing on Long Island. And we have, over the 7 rounds, made tremendous progress in recommending affordable housing for young people so that they will stay here. The last thing I'll say is that the 3rd track it may not get students to live on Long Island, but it will allow students who, live in Soho to work on Long Island, come back and work on Long Island. So at least we get a part of the training back in terms of the economy. Okay?
I'd also like to add that since 2011, the Regional Council has endorsed $9.9 million in New York State funding towards 158 DOL projects, resulting in 11,000 individuals receiving skills training. And also since 2011, we've endorsed projects to address the needs of the unemployed and the underemployed population to gain access to training through the Suffolk Community College Manufacturing and Welding Training Program, through the United Way of Long Island Youth Build and Vetsville Green Construction Training Program, and through the Urgent program that you heard about just a few moments ago. We recognize that all of Long Island residents, the working age and unskilled, are not college bound. Right. So we have spoken and worked with the workforce investment boards, and they've trained over 61,000 people in nursing, coding, and STEM job training fields and related fields. I'll say lastly, our veterans underemployment is now down, we're proud to say, from 3.5%, and is steadily going down because we are matching the needs of our population, especially our low moderate income population, with the employers and the job skills and the skills that they need, and coming together to place people in successful employment opportunities.
Can I add something? So, sorry. I would just add this, if you look at the challenges that we face as a nation, increasingly what's necessary is a STEM education to address them at all levels. And so the combination of universities and labs with strong outreach programs is one of the ways to deal with that. If you can reach kids, in K through 13 and get them excited, you have a much better chance of bringing them, of either keeping them or of bringing them back after they leave. So all of us have outreach programs, but Brookhaven in particular, the one I know best, is very aggressively now reaching down to K through 13, realizing that that's the future for STEM. And this is a little point. We certainly want to work to keep folks here, but by developing world-class institutions, we also attract people here from all over. And that's an important part of the effort that we're discussing here.
Thank you, and I congratulate you on thinking it through from kindergarten all the way through graduate school and employment, because that's really the key.
Thank you.
Although I think he added an extra year.
Well, you know.
Well, some take longer than others.
Commissioner Musonski.
Hi, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, and certainly warms my heart to see Pecana Crossing and Wyandanch and all the work that's going on in Hempstead, Carmen Place, and others. So thank you for your support of affordable housing out here. It is certainly a very, as you said, high-cost area for certainly young people to stay in. I wanted to ask, sort of in addition to that, I know you have an aging population and also have a veterans population, and sort of some of the challenges you have in sort of affordability for housing for veterans and seniors, and how the REDC can and has sort of supported those in addition to the wonderful projects that we saw so far. Was that a room? Is that a room stop?
I'll take a shot at that.
Skip the band.
Yeah.
I think there are, like every challenge or issue, there are multiple ways to address it. One of the things that Long Island has not been good at is the mix of housing opportunities that we have. You know, the way we developed, primarily as a single-family home community, and with a lot of municipal restrictions on the creation of multifamily housing, whether they're rentals or co-ops or condos. And those decisions made 50 years and 60 years ago has impacted us today. And while, and if you compare Long Island to other parts of the state and or the country, our mix in terms of rental versus ownership is a lot lower than other regions. But we've been making significant progress. And it's really happening at the village level in both Nassau and Suffolk counties, from Patchogue, Farmingdale, Mineola, where our elected officials are realizing that they can support multifamily housing projects because it's also helping our downtowns and our small businesses. And so I think we're seeing a change, but we're not going to address decisions made 50 and 60 years ago overnight. And I think the progress that we're making in both counties at the village level, people are seeing that, you know what, it's not such a bad thing. Why did we always fight this and oppose this in the past? And in fact, our businesses are thriving in our downtowns. And so now you see more downtowns in Westbury, what Joe Saladino wants to be doing in Hicksville. These are things now where you're seeing courage by elected officials that wasn't shown in the past to make these tough decisions. And so I think you're going to continue to see more of that. And our mix will then become more balanced like it is in other areas of the state and the country. And that'll be good for our economy.
That's great, thanks.
If I can dovetail to that comment, this is clearly something we see as the common thread. Priority one is jobs for our next generation, but for people of all ages, that ability to bring in this kind of investment. Hicksville is a perfect example. Common thread for downtowns that have mixed use, where people have affordable housing for those of every age and every need. But to also build a downtown that makes people want to stay here will be one of the ways to stem the tide of this migration. Provide for their cultural needs, for restaurants and all of the varieties of entertainment that come with a redevelopment of a downtown, we see as essential to solving many of these problems.
Thanks.
Director Stratton?
Thank you, Commissioner DeStito. Thank you very much, co-chairs and members of the panel, for a very inspiring and dynamic presentation. Unlike my colleagues on the SIAT, my agency is not a statewide totally. I have the opportunity to run the 524-mile New York State Canal system, which, although it does cover 7 of the state's 10 economic development regions, Long Island is not one of them. But, and I usually try to think of some creative way to tie the canals in the region. I'm about as far from the canal system today as we have been. But I would like to think that all of the great things that you have shown us, that you have done, would not be possible were it not for the beginning of our great state canal system nearly 200 years ago. And so you really need to come upstate and see how wonderful it is. While all of the indicators that you have pointed out, and you have made really tremendous progress from round 1 through round 7, in your leverage, $13.5 to every state dollar put in, more than 81% of your projects completed or on track. We do see poverty levels have actually increased, which you may not, the person, to look at all of this dynamic affluent change, you wouldn't think poverty would be on the rise. So, but you do identify it as a challenge. So I would like to hear what you're doing to address that challenge. And is there a concerted effort within your strategic plan to identify why that's happening, and what you're going to be doing to get a hold of that?
Sure. I'll start off. First, Commissioner, we have hundreds or thousands of miles of canals on Long Island. They're all pretty much on the South Shore, and they are a critical component of our economy. We're an island. We have 1,000 miles of coastline, and our marine environment is really, not only has supported our heritage industries, fishing, both commercial and recreational, but you think of all the marinas and all the restaurants and the real estate values along these canals on the South Shore of both Nassau and Suffolk counties. And so, we probably need to tap your agency, maybe we get some additional help for some of these canals. And so you just gave me a great idea. But in terms of, poverty increases on Long Island, our demographics on Long Island is one of the most significant challenges that we have here. In many ways, the only segment of our population until recently that has been growing is our 55 and over. So we're getting older. We're America's first suburb, so we're now America's oldest suburb. Exactly. Yeah. And so, we're getting older. But we have seen in the last 5 years actually an uptick in our millennial population, and that is something our strategies and our REDC plan that was trying to address. But in terms of some of our income disparities, that is continuing to grow as well. And as Stu mentioned it earlier in his comments, our poverty rate has increased over the last few years, and is similar to what it was when poverty statistics were first kept or started to be kept by the federal government in the 1950s. And so that is something we can't take our eye off of, and that's something that we need to continue to pay attention to. And we don't want to be, there's a perception of Long Island that because the Hamptons are on Long Island, we have nothing but wealth here, and we all know that's not the case, or because of our Gold Coast history in the Great Gatsby area. But we have pockets of poverty, and we have impacted and distressed communities throughout Long Island. And it's something that we are cognizant of, it's something that we are trying to address, and it's something that we, I think, have demonstrated in the proposals, not just in 2017, but in prior years, have tried to make a difference in those communities. And Pat, I'm sure you have some things to add?
Yes, I'd like to add a few things to that, to dovetail on what Kevin has said. Part of my day-to-day responsibility at City Community Development is to address and identify the needs of low moderate income populations, ever-changing immigrant populations, and communities of color that have significant challenges, such as Wyandanch, Hempstead, Roosevelt, a few other towns here on Long Island. So I'm, on a daily basis, sensitive to our pockets of poverty, our risk factors. The recent, as Kevin said, the demographics have shifted. We have a significant population, especially in those low moderate income communities, of immigrants that come to the island in search of a brighter future and employment opportunities. But and many of those immigrants come with degrees from other countries that are not acknowledged here. So we've been working with the Department of Labor to match those skill sets and credentials and identify what other training or certification or recredentialing they may need to have them acknowledged here, move them up the poverty line, and get them employment opportunities that are sustainable to support their families instead of working 3 and 4 jobs and having multiple incomes in households. So again, my focus is on the low moderate income community and providing opportunities. City Group, we are committed to providing opportunities to help low moderate income individuals and households that live in poverty, to bring them up. I'll just close by saying I am part of the Governor Cuomo's Empire State Poverty Reduction Initiative, and the Village of Hempstead is a recipient, one of the 6 regions in the state. So I co-chair the Workforce Development Committee and am working hard to recommend that a Workforce Development Center be created in Hempstead, the Village of Hempstead, to bring resources, opportunities, and training programs, and a business council, I might add, to help the residents of the Village of Hempstead move the needle on poverty.
We're very, very, very happy to hear that. Thank you so much, Pat. And thank you, Kevin. We'll get back to you on your canals, too. Thank you.
We love canals.
Assemblywoman Weinstein?
Thank you. I too want to thank everyone for their presentation. I've been involved with the earlier rounds, but it's good to see the accomplishments that have happened are in the works. I too also wanted to follow up on some of the issues of poverty and affordable housing, because in reading your report, it was striking to me that the poverty rates are report are the highest we've had in 60 years. And I do think it's a little bit of a contrast to sort of the outside world's view of Long Island, not to those of us who've been involved with the issues, the outside view. And so, you know, issues in terms of the affordable housing, and also want to know if you've looked at barriers to working for particularly low-income families, issues such as the availability or the unavailability, really, of daycare services that would allow people to be able to work, and also public transportation issues so that people can access jobs outside of their immediate community.
You know, just speaking from my personal opinion, you know, the thing I am most proud of over the 7 years is what we've invested in Wyandanch. And the point about Wyandanch from day one has been that we want to demonstrate that that can be replicated in other distressed areas. And Wyandanch not only has affordable housing as part of it, but as you've heard before, has, you know, training facilities. And now we're asking for a Y to cut down on the attraction of some gangs and so on. And so, you know, we've been living with these poverty areas. The rates may have gone down, but, you know, Hempstead has been a poor area forever. Wyandanch forever. And so we are trying to address that. You can't do it all in 6 years as to what's taken, a century to build up. I also would say, that the immigrant population on Long Island is frightened at the moment, and many of them are frightened at the moment and might stay away from educational programs that they otherwise would get involved with, and that is beyond the state control or beyond our control. But I think the ultimate answer on poverty, I know it's an adage, but the best way to combat it is education. And you heard all about, programs that are designed to educate students in distressed communities. One project we haven't talked about this year, because we didn't ask for any more money, is the Hofstra Medical Scholars Pipeline Program, which works with 8 or 9 distressed school districts, students who are sophomores in high school, and not only teaches them about health-related fields, not necessarily being a physician, but also teaches them how to take the SATs, teaches them how to be college-ready, and so on. And it's had a great impact on it. So there are individual institutions here who are doing their best that you don't hear about, because they're not asking for money on this round, like City and our medical pipeline program. But I think education is really the key in the long run, and I think we're trying pretty hard, and if the state helps us some more, it'll be better.
Right. And Assemblywoman, every issue that you mentioned is, at the end of the day, an economic development challenge or opportunity for us. Childcare historically used to be viewed as a woman's issue, and then it was just a family issue. But no, it's an economic development issue, because our businesses, if we didn't have good, quality childcare, and we need more of it, many businesses would suffer because they wouldn't be able to have all the employees that they currently have. So we need to continue to remind people that childcare is an economic development issue. And same thing when it comes to affordable housing. It was the Long Island Association that founded the Long Island Housing Partnership 30 years ago, because they realized it was their workforce that couldn't find homes, and it was in their interest to support affordable housing projects because that would be a place for their employees to live. And the same thing when it comes to poverty and recognizing that we're becoming a much more diverse region than we have in the past. And why does that matter? Again, from a business perspective, from an economic development perspective, well, those are our future students, those are our future workforce, and what are we doing to make sure that they're getting the proper education and the proper training to become our future employees? And so I think we tie all these issues that you mentioned into, hey, they're not social issues, and they're not political issues, or they're not male or female issues, but these are business, economic development issues, and we need everybody to be supportive of addressing them, because at the end of the day, they are our future workforce.
From a local government perspective, your investment in the town of Oyster Bay, and specifically in Hicksville, is that key that opens the door to the sustainability of the community. We see this as an opportunity to begin the process, to invite in developers, to attract them to come in, to build housing that is more affordable for purchase and for rentals. Therefore, all populations have an opportunity to move here, to be educated. Hicksville is a critical location because of its proximity to the education centers like Hofstra, our state system. So many wonderful schools are so close by. So your investment in our community starts that process, and then the local government responsibility is to attract developers who understand about keeping the prices at a price point that everyone can find the American dream here in our community. And we welcome a very diversified population. We welcome all of the mixed-use opportunities, and we will be working with labor to ensure that we strike that balance between paying the prevailing wage, ensuring that our workforce is paid properly, and keeping the price low. so that everyone will have these opportunities. Clearly, your investment is what starts that sustainability.
Thank you. So I'm just gonna end with a comment. Pat, I wanna say thank you because we started this discussion on the opportunity agenda with Wyandanch several years ago. And you've come a long way, and I know you've expanded. And it's great to see the opportunity agenda going into more communities and growing the mixed use housing and all that's going on. So thank you. And to keep us on schedule, I think we'll end this part of our tour and or our presentation, and we'll go on our tour. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.